Hello there everybody, it is me XfreezerBunny and welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build. So today we're back with yet another build inspired by the new pond tool. So this time we're building this modern lake house here in Granite Falls. It's been a while since I've been here and I'm really excited to be back with another kind of rental slash vacation home build, and I absolutely enjoyed this build. It took me forever to finish. This build has been in the works for I would say 3 weeks now. In the end, I had over 8 hours of footage and it took me like a good 3 or 4 days to edit out all of those footage, and I still ended up with a 30-minute long speed build. So this is my first like really long speed build in a while. I usually like to keep them around 20 minutes, but this time it's like almost 30 minutes, which is kind of crazy for me. But I really enjoyed this build and I'm really excited for you guys to see all of the new tricks that I came up with this build. What I'm doing right now is probably something you've seen from another build I did a little while back. My tiny Scandinavian build, I did this trick where I kind of used these floor tile pieces from Spade to basically make these triangular windows. And of course, I am also using the tool mod, which is a lifesaver as a builder. I couldn't imagine enjoying building in The Sims 4 as much as I do without the tool mod. It is an absolute lifesaver as a builder. But yeah, as you can see, I did that triangular window type thing. I'd like to call it like what do you call it? It's not a bay window, but yeah, I've heard people call this like a prow window. Technically it's not, because a prow window has a different shape, but you guys get what I mean. It's kind of that type of window that you often see in these luxurious mountainside mansions in like Aspen or Lake Tahoe. This house in particular was actually inspired by Lake Tahoe, not by a particular house, but just kind of like the vibe. You know, to me, just seeing the pictures gives me kind of like that really rich, privileged vibe. I may be wrong, but yeah, this house also reminds me so much of The Parent Trap for some strange reason, because I grew up watching that movie. Absolutely loved it. It's the Lindsay Lohan version, and oh my goodness, the part where she went camping, I don't know why, this just took me back to that movie and I absolutely loved it. It's crazy to think that at this point, that movie is probably already a classic, even though it came out when I was like a kid. So yeah, I feel old just remembering it, but I absolutely loved it. But yeah, I really enjoyed the shape of this house. This house ended up having 3 bedrooms, so it's not quite a mansion. Every time I call a 3-bedroom house a mansion, people always complain in the comments, so I'm not gonna call it that, but it's a pretty good sized, you know, vacation home here in Granite Falls. And yeah, I really love this technique of making these triangular windows. I think this is probably one of my best works, not gonna lie. I know I said this in my last build, but I think this build is probably one of my most complicated builds that I had to do, because I didn't just do the windows, I also did like this elaborate interior where there's like these, you know, open ceiling with the exposed truss and beam detail. It's actually crazy. And there's also this like upper floor loft type area that also, you know, made my life hell. It actually did, because it's kind of a pain to furnish this area. And I will have to apologize because unfortunately I forgot to film myself actually furnishing the loft part. You didn't miss much, but the loft part is actually functional and there are some, you know, gaming items in there. I put like a foosball machine and kind of like a lounge area set up over there. I guess we can call it a den. But yeah, right now we're working on these truss details, which, as you know, I love doing on my channel because I love deconstructing interiors. of buildings and kind of using the structural elements as decorative elements as well. So yeah, this definitely took me a good maybe 1 or 2 hours. And as you can see, I've already fast forwarded and I'm just basically copy and pasting all of the things. Thankfully, the tool mod made this a lot easier because yeah, you can just easily copy the items by holding Shift Alt and clicking on the item multiple times. It's such a lifesaver and definitely saved me so much time. I'd like to call this technique prefabricating because technically we did the detail away from where it's supposed to be, and yeah, we just kind of, you know, prefabricated it in a different location, pretty much is what I'm trying to say. Sorry if I'm stuttering right now, by the way. I literally just finished editing this footage and I cannot wait to get this up for you guys. Earlier today, I just tried out the demo for Tales of Arise, and this isn't something that I get to talk about often in my channel, but a lot of you probably don't know, but I am a pretty big gamer. I do love my, you know, non-simulation games, even though most of the games that I love are simulation games, farming simulations like Stardew Valley. I love Planet Zoo, but I also love JRPGs and just role-playing games in general. And one of my favorite games is the Tales series. And yeah, Tales of Arise is coming next month. I pre-ordered it a couple of months ago. I think May was when it came out for pre-order, and the demo just came out and I just tried it out earlier today. It was amazing. Oh my goodness, the visuals are insane. I'm used to kind of like the anime aesthetic of Tales of series, but this is just a whole nother level. This is legit next gen. I haven't been this excited for a console game in a very long time. I would say ever since Monster Hunter World came out, I haven't been this excited for a console game. And yeah, it looks like Tales of Arise is probably going to be one of my favorite Tales games. And you betcha I pre-ordered the collector's edition with the figure, because as soon as I saw that they had the Mega House figure, I was like, I'm sold, I'm gonna buy this. That edition of the game, by the way, sold out immediately. It was insane. I could not find like a North American, European, or Japanese version of the game, so I actually ended up ordering an Asian version. So I had to buy it all the way from Hong Kong just to get all of the features that I wanted. But luckily, I think my PlayStation 4 is actually part of like the Asian region. It's weird. Yeah, I think mine is actually like a Singapore-based one, so that's a thing. So hopefully it works. I don't really mind. This is a thing, right? If there's like region locks, I will buy the game a second time just to play it. I just really wanted the perks that came with like the pre-orders. So, and actually the pre-order that I got was pretty cheap, so it wasn't even that bad. It was like $140-ish, so I don't think that was actually that bad considering all of the stuff I got, because other than the figure, we also got an art book as well, so that was pretty cool. That was my geeking out segment that is non-Sims related. I hope you all enjoyed this kind of content. I'm trying to kind of diversify my commentary. I don't really know what to talk about for most of these builds. And you know, instead of rambling about, you know, random stuff, I just want to give you guys a little bit more of personality development, if any of you are into that. So yeah, if you have any suggestions on what I should talk about in my videos, please let me know. But right now we are actually moving on the interior, and one thing that I wish I could have done a better job with is actually incorporate some better stairs to the loft area, because at the moment it's kind of just a ladder that leads up to the loft area, and I wish there was some sort of spiral staircase. I have heard rumors that we might be getting one, but of course I don't want to, you know, jump to conclusions without EA actually doing the formal announcement for that, but spiral staircases would have been perfect for that area. I just did not have the room for like an actual staircase. That would have just taken way too much time. By the way, the aesthetic that I went for in the interior is more of like a, I would say vintage. Is 90s vintage at this point? Is it? I don't know, maybe like an 80s or 90s aesthetic, because you know that's the decade that I kind of grew up in, and I just thought that, you know, it worked really well because a lot of the movies that I watched growing up did have parts of them that showcase this kind of setting. Like I remember the house from Cheaper by the Dozen 2, if any of you remember that movie. Yeah, they had a lake house as well, so this was also kind of like a reference to that. But yeah, I really love this living room area. It feels really cozy and it looks amazing if you go into tab mode and just taking screenshots, because yeah, the giant windows opening onto the lake area, which we will do later on, is just breathtaking if I do say so myself. And I also enjoyed the kitchen as well. I think it all came together really nicely. I'm actually really surprised at how cohesive everything goes, because as you all know, sometimes it can be a nightmare to match everything in The Sims 4, and I will say I did struggle a little bit with some of the wallpapers, because the lodge type wallpapers that we have in game don't really look that good. I really wasn't a big fan of the swatches, but luckily I found these ones. I think these are actually from Spa Day, and they look good enough. They look modern and contemporary enough to pass off as kind of like this, you know, wood treatment for both the interior and the exterior, and it looks really good in my opinion. And also, we are working on this kind of like little entrance area. I don't know why I put like some skiing equipment over there. This is supposed to be a lake house, but who knows, maybe in the winter time they can also do some winter activities as well. But yeah, this is a thing that happens in a lot of my builds, by the way, because I do the kitchen first because it's usually the one that is the most difficult to get all of the different appliances to function correctly. But yeah, usually when I do the kitchen, I forgot to do the clutter, so I would do the clutter after moving on to another room to furnish, which is kind of disorderly. But I will say that the fridge was kind of a pain to get to work, because I really wish that just the fridges would have like this frame that would actually be the same size as the counter, because I ended up putting the fridge inside of a counter cabinet, which is a trick that I used to do, and then I forgot just how difficult it was to actually make the fridge work. So I will try my best to make it work, because I have play tested this and I couldn't make the fridge work. So if you don't see the counter cabinet in the final product, it's because I couldn't make the fridge work, just saying. Right, let's move on to the master bedroom, which is quite possibly one of the most beautiful bedrooms I've ever done in any of my hundreds of builds. I have done hundreds of builds for The Sims 4, by the way, at this point, but yeah, this is such a beautiful room, if I do say so myself. There's really nothing much in it, but just the layout of the room is amazing. I love how there's a corner fireplace, and I think my favorite part of this room would actually have to be the ceiling. I think the ceilings just play such a big role in giving you that sense of space. And I kind of miss that from the previous Sims games, especially with the Sims 2 console games, because I've talked about this in other builds before, but the Sims 2 console games actually had this direct control where you can, you know, use the controller to control your Sims. And it's a type of control that I haven't really seen implemented in any of the PC Sims games, but it would be so amazing to have controller support, because that would give us the ability to actually explore interiors from the perspective of our own Sims. I know they tried to do it in The Sims 4 with like the first person controls, but it was so clunky. They did it so much better in the Sims 2 consoles, because basically the Sims 3, the way we control it now, it's more of like a traditional point and click. Yeah, I would really like to have had more like, you know, controller support for more control options, I guess. But yeah, this is the ceiling. It's very different from what I've done before, but I really like it. Kind of reminds me of like a barn for some reason, I don't know why. And I just wish that that chandelier was a little bit bigger, because it's a little bit small for the space. It would have been so amazing to have it be just slightly bigger. I think that would have given it that much more impact. But yeah, this bedroom also has a walk-in closet, which is a pretty nice space. Really luxurious, if I do say so myself. I'm using a lot of the Dream Home Decorator items. And yeah, I really like how detailed they went with these walk-in closets. I guess these were kind of a big deal that they really wanted to highlight in that pack. And yeah, such a good pack actually. I've been using Dream Home Decorator quite a bit, especially in kind of more luxurious builds. I used it a lot in my underwater house builds as well. Speaking of my recent builds, a lot of you actually really enjoyed my last build. I have had so many amazing comments from, my Thai audience, so thank you so much to everyone who watched that build and to everyone who left comments. It really means a lot to me to, get your feedback and also just, get in touch with you guys. So sorry if I haven't been replying to the comments as much as I would like to, because unfortunately I just didn't have time to loiter around YouTube, because I was really busy with doing builds and editing and all of that good stuff. Because right now I'm actually working on multiple builds. I have just scrapped Japanese farmhouse builds for my Redesign New Crest series, unfortunately, because I really wasn't loving what I did. So I will have to give it another go. I have a better idea on what I want to do for that build, so we'll see. Also, I am planning to do a starter home for Redesign New Crest as well at some point, so you can keep an eye out for that. And actually, in other news, this is going to be really fun. Last week, I was actually invited to be a Simmer curator for a Twitter page called Humans of the Sims. So if any one of you want to get to know me a little bit better, you can look at that page and maybe scroll down a bit for all of the posts that I did, because I talked about so many things. They basically asked me to post a bunch of things, and each day they gave me like different requirements on what to post. So there were days when I posted, my creations, there were days when I posted my favorite creators and my favorite builds, and this is the one opportunity I had to talk about my experiences being in the community since the Sims 2 days, because I shared a lot of creators from when I first got into the community in like 2006, I would say, was when I really became active. That's when I discovered that the Sims had an online community. And yeah, a lot of my favorite creators that I shared on the Humans of the Sims Simmer curator week that I had was from that time. So a lot of them you probably don't even recognize, because I don't think a lot of them are active right now on the community. But if you're interested to see what kind of people I interacted with and who I interacted with and followed in my early years as a member of this community, you might want to check that out. It's really insightful, and I absolutely had so much fun featuring a lot of my favorite creators from The Sims 2. And I think watching that or like reading my posts will probably give you an idea on why I do the builds that I do and who were the people who influenced me when I first got into the community. That was really fun. And now we are probably working on the most detailed part of this build, which is actually the landscaping. And yeah, this part just took me forever, and if it isn't obvious, it's like taking up like nearly half of this build, just the landscaping in general, because I really wanted to utilize the terrain tools and all of the new features that we've got with the recent patches, in particular the pond tool. So forgive me if I wanted to spend a little time and linger on the pond tool and the terrain tool, but I really wanted to highlight it and kind of do landscaping that I thought was kind of in harmony with the rest of the surroundings. Obviously, the lake itself, I would have liked it to be bigger because this is literally just a pond, but there's really nowhere else I could build this and give you that kind of effect other than this part in Granite Falls. But I'm really happy with how it turned out in the end, and I also did quite a bit of terrain manipulation, and it was really hard. It took me forever because the thing about terrain manipulation in The Sims 4 is that if you get carried away, it just looks really fake. I really don't like the unnatural looking terrain manipulations where there's literally mountains, literal mountains coming out of this one lot. It looks really weird to me. No hate to anyone who does that, by the way. Just personally, I like my builds to look more natural and to look more integrated in the place where they're built in. So yeah, that's kind of like the challenge that I always try to do in my builds, and I'm really happy that we have the terrain tools actually now, because for the longest time we've been asking for this in The Sims 4, and I think they really do make a difference. I think terrain tools do make a difference in the houses that we build, and I just love having the variety. Actually, I haven't really talked a lot about terrain tools recently, but I really do enjoy them, and I'm glad they got added in the game in 2018. So really enjoyed it. I feel like I talked pretty much about every single topic I wanted to talk about. Oh, there's one more thing I want to talk about actually, and that is I have started reading a new manga actually, which I'm not sure if it's even considered a manga, but I started watching this new anime called Shadow's House. And I saw the first couple of episodes and I was really curious actually about the manga. I've searched high and low for any copies of the manga that I can buy from local stores, international stores. I couldn't find any manga from Shadow's House. I don't know if it's available in manga format because I do prefer to read my manga like in physical form. I don't think I've ever read a full manga digitally. I just really prefer it in physical form. By the way, for those of you who don't know, manga are basically Japanese comic books / visual novels. So yeah, I've been looking for like a physical copy, but I couldn't find one. So I ended up finding this website. I think it's official, I'm not sure. But yeah, they post different chapters of the manga of Shadow's House, and it's really good actually. I really like it. It's giving me so much of the Black Butler vibes that I absolutely love, because I'm really into the gothic Lolita aesthetic, that gothic Victorian vibe. Really love it. And I'm happy to see that quite a lot of new anime actually has that aesthetic. There's this one new anime that I haven't started yet because I'm waiting for it to finish airing, but the case study of Vanitas, that looks amazing, and I'm really excited to get that started once it's finished airing. And also another anime and manga that I started reading was Moriarty the Patriot actually, which is kind of like the same vibe, but I will say Moriarty is not what I expected it to be, and I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing, but I'm really enjoying it so far. I haven't finished the second part of the first season of the anime. I know this is gonna sound really convoluted, but yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to recently. So yeah, I want to know how you're all doing actually. If you've been into reading, let me know what you've been reading or what you've been watching. I have been looking for suggestions on what to watch on Netflix, because I don't know, there's a lot of shows out there that I just really want people to recommend to me. I just put a lot of value on word of mouth recommendations. Usually those are the best in my experience, and a lot of shows that I actually watched were suggested by you guys. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. One of the shows that I watched recently actually was Mashiro no Oto, also known as These Snow White Notes in English. And yeah, somebody suggested that in my Japanese high school build, and I watched it like 2 weeks ago and it was pretty good. Whoever suggested it, thank you. I really enjoyed it. You were right, I enjoyed it just as much as I did Kono Oto no Tomare. So yeah, thank you for that suggestion. But as you can see, the landscaping for this house is pretty naturalistic, as I do love to do this naturalistic landscaping, not really into the whole uber manicure garden. I like it to feel more naturalistic, so I spent a lot of time in the debug category just looking for different plants and shrubs and grasses that I could use, and really happy with how everything came together. I particularly love the flowers that came with cottage living. Those are so beautiful, and a lot of grass as well, and cattails. So yeah, and finally I'm just putting in some pond decorations over here, lots of ducks, fish, and there's also a little corner where we have some fireflies, so you will have to also enjoy that if you download this house yourself. But speaking of download, this house should be available on the gallery. All of the details for that is always in the description of my videos. But having said that, I think that's going to be it for this build. So thank you all so much for watching. You all have an awesome day. Enjoy the rest of the video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.